Welcome to Palatable Politics, a show where we take the complexity out of politics and make it palatable for you. With me, your host, Tapelo Maslela. Welcome to the show. In today's show, we're going to be discussing economic development in Gauteng with a strong focus on youth and women. Other provinces will come to you. Your lives matter, just not right now, but we're coming. Here to educate us and give us insight is a former MEC of Infrastructure Development and Property Legislature, a former Member of Parliament representing Gauteng. She is a mother, a sister, a daughter, an aunt, an activist, not just on TV, but actually on the ground, day to day. Also known as a silent assassin for getting her work done. And I'd continue, but we actually do have to get to the show. So welcome to the show, Mrs. Tasneem Motara.
Thank you so much for having me, Tapelo.
Thank you. So we're going to start firstly with, there's a perception of women in politics, or rather that in politics, it's old men. How did we get a young woman like you, a young, attractive woman in politics? Balance us.
So I grew up in an activist home, a family full of activists. My parents are still active activists. My dad was a local government councillor until 2 years ago when he finally retired. So I was born into it. I often like to say that it's almost like being born in the church. You sort of run away from it, but the more you run, the more it sort of like sucks you in. You end up right there, right back there. So I was very familiar with politics from a very young age. It was in our home, in our family. I was conscientized really at home. And the more I thought I would not be in politics, the more I ended up right back there.
Okay, all right. So let's get into it in terms of the department. So economic development in Gauteng, outline to us what the roles, functions, and
So, of course, Gauteng represents the economic hub, not only of the country, but also of the continent. Currently, we, as a province, contribute 1/3 of the GDP of the country, just on 36%. So it fluctuates between 35 and 36%. That's a huge mammoth task, not only to be able to expand, but also to maintain and look for new investors, look for new opportunities, make sure that we regulate the space adequately for business to be able to thrive. So economic development as a department's responsibility is to regulate the space in the province, look for more investment opportunities, both abroad, outside of our own confines as a province, our own confines as a country, but also look for investors, international investors. Yes, currently our biggest trading partner is the Eurozone. That's our biggest trading partner. But we do have a responsibility to expand trade within the continent, and that is what we're looking at. And then, of course, we're responsible for the regulation of different industries, in particular liquor, gambling, tourism to a certain extent. And then there are some aspects that are really just focused on the province. So for instance, we're not an agriculture strong province, but we're strong in agro-processing. We're still strong in mining, construction, property as a very strong sector that is coming up. Financial services, we still are the hub of financial services and the sector itself as a whole. Creative industries, we're looking at growing tourism again, taking us back to pre-COVID numbers. And I think we are seeing steady growth there. And then we're looking at new frontiers, such as the cannabis industry, as an example. And like I say, just continuously maintaining relationships that we have with multinationals, with companies across the globe, across the continent, and making sure that Gauteng remains a destination of choice for any investor, any business entrepreneur, young person who wishes and thinks of a great, brilliant idea, way to set up. We believe Gauteng is the place.
Okay. Now, with regards to the jurisdiction, obviously we have the DTIC, we have local government. So if you have a Ndombi out there who wants to start, she's got a great idea, she I guess, let's say has an investor, where does she go if she stays in Ekurhuleni? Is she supposed to approach the region? Is she supposed to approach the province and the national? When does one go where? You understand what I'm saying?
Okay, so it is sometimes very overwhelming for a young person who might have a brilliant business idea, brilliant business plan that just needs funding or non-financial even support. So there are funds across, whether it is, of course, in the province, yes, and national, depending on the amount you're looking for. That would be your first avenue to direct you to which funding agency you could knock on. The second aspect is what sector. So, for instance, if it's manufacturing, there are certain funds just for manufacturing. For instance, DTIC would have rolled out and continues to roll out the Black Industrialist Program. So if you're Black, South African, looking to enter into the industrialist space, that is manufacturing, not assembly, manufacturing, they have got a fund for that. And then there are different pool of funds for grants. Yes, we do have a grant fund in the province. Minimal, very, very minimal. We're looking to increase that. So currently it's sitting at about 50,000 Rand for a business. It's really just to sort of help you over a small bridge, not to, lift you up completely. And then there are different funders. I think the first, like I said, the first is define how much you want, and then make a determination of which sector it is. Departments like tourism nationally have got funds for businesses in the tourism sector. Manufacturing is funded by us in the province, yes, but there's bigger funds available from national departments. IDC is another funding institution. DTI, SMME funding is really the competency also of the Department of Small Business Enterprises. They've got a few funds, SEFA, SEDA, really depending on, again, the nature of your business. I think as an entrepreneur and as a budding business owner, do a lot of research. In the province, we've got the Enterprise Propeller that houses our funding for businesses. And really it is because it's a small budget that we do have. We focus on SMMEs, not age dependent, not gender dependent. We do also fund businesses in the agriculture space. That's done by the Department of Agriculture. So really do your homework. I think what could be possibly very frustrating for a business owner is have to go present your case, go through a process of funding application, only to find that either the agency that you've gone to doesn't fund your type of business or doesn't have the adequate amount of money that you're looking for. So do yourself a favor, research what is out there, national, different departments in the province. Yes, we cater for businesses in Gauteng, but I've got counterparts across the country that have got that cater for businesses in particular provinces. So if you KZN based, as an example, you would go to an equivalent of our department in KZN to look for the same.
Okay, so for your benefit and to assist with the research aspect, we're going to put down the links here as to the different, national and then the different provinces. I told you would come back to you. And also we'll focus on Gauteng in terms of the different metros and the municipalities here. So going back to the key industries, you have mentioned tourism is one that we're trying to bring back. But which ones are the ones that are holding the economy, that are contributing towards the 1/3? And which ones have the potential to increase more? And take us before, I know you did mention cannabis, but if you were to be specific on others.
So manufacturing is still our biggest contributor in the financial services sector, and mining, especially in Gauteng. So those are the top three in the province, and they definitely do contribute to not only the GDP. So for instance, you look at manufacturing, and especially manufacturing in the automotive sector. Gauteng houses big OEMs, BMW in particular, Ford Motor Company. Ford Motor Company on its own contributes 1% to the national GDP. We manufacture the Ford Ranger here in Gauteng for export to the Euro market. It's one of the 3 global manufacturing sites of the OEM. BMW manufactures the X3. We used to manufacture the 3 Series. We no longer manufacture the 3 Series. All of them for the export market. Coming in at a close second, I would say still the construction industry. We're doing now a study on property, just the property as a subsector of construction, just to look at what are those numbers. Of course, the property in Gauteng has boomed over probably the last 10 to 15 years. So we just want to look at that. What are the actual figures? Where are the opportunities? And then tourism has the huge potential to contribute up to 10% of the national GDP. Currently, it's sitting at below 4%. We've never really reached the 10%. But of course, there's certain things that we have to do, not only as a province, but as a country as a whole, to get that 10%. We still believe that Gauteng, South Africa, is a destination of choice, but there are a few things that we just need to attend to be able to address that, so that you deal with tourist experience. We are on a very aggressive drive to increase the business tourism. That really was a great aggregator of a contribution to our GDP as a province. Business tourism in the sense of hosting big seminars, big conferences, business to business. So yes, of course, we're hosting BRICS Summit, which we get up for. We've had international visitors all year in preparation for that. From this week in particular, we're going to be seeing bigger numbers coming in preparation for the summit. And then, of course, the summit itself will see the biggest amount of heads of state for the BRICS since the inception of BRICS will be hosted here. We've got confirmation of 30 currently heads of state. So it's going to be huge. I think for us, agro-processing is a huge potential, has a huge potential. Of course, we're known as a country, province, continent for exporting raw materials, but we're looking to look at value add. So when I speak about the mining sector, I also speak about how we have looked at opportunities in the mining sector to do value add and export products which are finished. So jewelry manufacturing comes to mind. We are housing De Beers at our special economic zone. They are within the parameters of the special economic zone, and huge partnerships with them, with the diamond mines and diamond buyers across the globe that have come. Some of them have already set up, but we're looking to do value add to raw materials, raw diamonds, not only just cutting and polishing, but also jewelry manufacturing for export. So we've got a lot. I think one of the untapped markets still remains the creative industry. You have Bollywood, you have Hollywood, you have Nollywood. What is the South African version of that? We have many stories to tell as a country, and one of the mediums of doing that is through the entertainment industry. It remains untapped, but I think it could be one of the biggest contributors to job creation. If you think of a TV set as an example, not only the technical expertise, but also the auxiliary and support services that come, catering, transport, accommodation, many things can come to mind. And we think that if we further collaborate more, we could see a lot of numbers coming out of the creative industry.
Okay, so thank you for that. You've outlined that naturally that there's room for us to grow, particularly around the supply chain and the value add aspect in terms of manufacturing. Tourism, there's that 10% and the creative aspect. How do we now create space and allow for the youth and women in particular to take up that space and to drive us to achieve that growth? What incentives are they, and how do they go about it?
So definitely one of the biggest incentives is our policy regime. So, for instance, in the province, we've said our focus has been on townships. Our province landscape is made up of townships. It's a unique feature of Gauteng, where you have a suburb, you have a township. Of course, yes, it's apartheid spatial planning. We've not done much to do away with it. But the reality is that the South Africans and Black South Africans still enjoy what townships have to offer. They may have moved out of suburbs, but they still go there for recreation. They still go there almost on a daily basis it's still a source of identity. It's still a source of economic activity. So yes, definitely for us, we've looked at the townships. So I've looked at packaging different policy as well as procurement packages, because I think one of the big stimulators is government procurement. We have big spending power as provincial government. Where do we spend? That becomes important. So our focus, and we've got set asides for women, for youth, and so policy is a very important aspect. And I think we've done well in terms of policy, just to say that funding is available for youth and women particularly. I think what other incentives are there is that the fact that our policy regime recognizes that for us to equalize society, for us to be able to take society forward, you've got to pick up the most vulnerable. You've got to pick up the majority. So majority in Gauteng remains women. Majority South Africans remain women. And if we don't have dedicated interventions for women, we're not going to see the end result being a change in numbers, because you're still not taking care of the majority. There's a host of incentives, whether it's funding, whether it is, for instance, business-to-business meetings don't take place without making sure that we meet a woman quota. So I think women are poised to be able to take up a lot of critical spaces in a lot of industries that were previously male-dominated, construction, even the financial services sector, even mining. I mean, there's a lot of women in that spaces, and I think it's just about women stepping up and taking their rightful place in society.
So you mentioned the policy aspect. I know. So that's from government's side.
Yes.
Now, how does one kind of get the private sector, the corporate sector on board? Because I mean, the government can have the initiatives to say, okay, they must be 50%, 80%. The government spend, as you said. Mm-hmm. But now, how does one bring corporate on board? How does one change what is currently there and the obstacles that are currently there?
So I think a lot of course, yes, corporate South Africa, private sector South Africa has always sort of been far away from what government policy is. But I think that I for one, am seeing changes in not only the attitude, but also the appreciation of having them, address some of the historical challenges that we have as a country. I think it also it bodes well for them when they also want to do business with government. So many companies in the private sector want to look for opportunities to do business with with government, either providing a service, a solution, a product. To be able to do that, you've got to meet certain minimum requirements. So it's in your best interest to be compliant as a business. Of course, you may start off not necessarily looking at government as a client, but because government, as I said, has got big spending power, we almost always remain a potential client for any business. And for you to do business with government, like I say, you've got to be compliant. Why not be compliant right from the start?
Yeah. Back to the township economy aspect of it. So you said where there's a suburb, there's a township. Yeah. Can you be more specific in terms of what the township business is? And I would assume that there's a large element of it that is informal. So how does one formalize that, and why is it important to formalize it, if it is?
So I think that I think the jury is still out about whether you want to formalize or not formalize. I think for us, it's more about giving support to businesses that already exist. Okay. So what type of support? So one of the big challenges in townships is infrastructure or the lack thereof. So what does government do to be able to address that? Secondly is quality of and standard of product. What do we do to be able to support that? And then the third aspect is the access to market. That is always a big challenge. And what do we do as government to be able to support that? So we've looked at those three aspects and said, okay, we as government have got a responsibility and we can actually address that. In the province, we've introduced TIDA, which is the Township Economic Development Act. The intention of TIDA is to be able to give direct support to township businesses and the township economy, not to formalize. So we're not saying that for you to be a business, you've got to look like you're a counterpart outside of the township. So what has that done? It has designated particular areas in townships as economic hubs. So you can go there and operate, manufacture, ply your trade. Secondly, it's to create a fund to be able to support businesses. We're in the process of establishing that fund as I speak. We'll provide more details quite soon. And then lastly is the access to market. So how have we come on board to be able to do that as government? 60% of our goods and services budget must be spent on township businesses. But of course, the big issue for us as government, like I said, is scale. So if, for instance, the Department of Health buys bread every day, they don't buy 10 loaves of bread, they buy hundreds. Per hospital, we've got 32 hospitals in the province. We've created, so the idea is to create business hubs, manufacturing hubs. So 10 of you who manufacture bread, you come, you work, you get a single order, which everybody splits across. And support with industry standards is there, quality assurance is there, but nobody is left out because you can only produce 50 loaves of bread a day, as an example. And maybe for you, 50 loaves of bread is enough. It's the type of business you want to stay at that size. You don't necessarily want to compete with the big companies. Big companies mean big overheads and bigger problems. So that's what we're doing. So the third aspect where we're speaking about market linkages, access to market, is looking at different partnerships that we can explore as government on behalf of those businesses. So we have what is called the last mile. So last mile is a logistics sector speak in terms of the last aspect of getting a product to a consumer. So you have raw product in the farms, in the mine, etc. Raw product goes to a manufacturer. Manufacturer adds value. Value-added products go to warehousing. Warehousing goes on a last mile to the consumer. So we've entered into a partnership with Uber Eats, and part of that partnership is to be able to supply township produced products, not only eats. So amagwinya that you find in the township can be transported on the Uber Eats platform, via the Uber Eats platform, with township-based delivery employees. So we're onboarding, we're training, and in fact, this week we're going to be hosting and rolling out that program, and it will expand to all townships in the province. Like I said, it's not only about what is edible in the province, but in the township, but also what is manufactured. So we've come across a lot of very interesting products in the township that have been manufactured over time, skincare products. What else? Hair care products, tested, manufactured, tested, quality assured. But the big challenge is getting it to the consumer. we believe that you don't have to be on a shelf in a retail store. People want convenience. COVID taught us about, the convenience. And why go to a shelf when you can take your product from home where you've manufactured it right to the consumer? So those are some of the partnerships that we're looking at, just to be able to enhance and close the gap of market access.
Okay. So with regards to the informal aspect of it, just to be a bit more specific, so you're saying that government through TIDA, last mile, etc., sorry, they are able to assist and fund informal businesses. So one doesn't necessarily need to be registered. One can look, this is how I do my business. This is where I am.
Yes. So remember, for registration, there could be different registrations. And I think that's also some of the big thing that we're speaking about, especially with national departments. Is there some way that we could collapse many of the compliance? Because for you as a small business, you may need to comply with 10 different industries. It's expensive, it's cumbersome, it takes away from the core of what you're doing. We've done that with government. So before, a few years ago, you would have to have registered if you want to do business in the province. You would have had to register with 11 departments, 15 to 16 entities. It's expensive, like I say, it's cumbersome. How has National Treasury helped us with that? There is a single portal called Central Supplier Database. If you are registered there, you can do business with government, with the state, national, province, in a municipality. You don't have to keep registering. And now the qualifications for doing business with government is being registered with being tax compliant, of course, SARS, South African, and CSD, or the Central Supplier Database. So we've looked at ease of doing business. So, for you to, like I said, we're working with industry and sector players that look at quality assurance, because quality, of course, if you're supplying bread to a hospital, it can't be bread that's going to make patients worse off than they are. So the testing and that sort of thing. But if we bring more people together, a simple product such as toilet paper can go through, quality assurance. You are quality assured, and somebody on the back end confirms that on your behalf, as opposed to you having to go all the time. I think, those are some of the barriers to entry that we must be able to address, and we're doing quite a lot to address that.
So once again, for your benefit, we are going to just include the site for where you can access the central database of Treasury. Back to, you've mentioned a number of times that Gauteng's the economic hub. There's the infrastructure, there's economy, hospitals, etc. And by default, that leads to a lot of people coming in, migration, both legal, illegal. What's the impact of that?
So of course, the first impact is on our government services. Health and education struggle the most, and I say struggle because it is it's our responsibility to be able to provide those services. But because we're not able to plan for an influx of people, you never know. Many of them, yes, are illegal, many of them legal. Others come because services have either collapsed in other provinces and they're forced to come here. So the pressure that it adds to us as Gauteng is the quality of service. So service you'll definitely get. You'll definitely be seen to at a hospital in Gauteng. But the quality is going to be compromised, because the same nursing staff, the same doctors that ordinarily would have to look at 50 patients now overnight have to look at 100 patients, as an example. A class that could have taken 30 students comfortably is forced to take 45. Education, you're going to definitely get it. You're definitely going to get taught. You're definitely going to have an opportunity to better yourself. The challenge will become the quality. So, of course, government services become the first victim, if I could put it that way. Secondly is the strain on our infrastructure. So road infrastructure and general infrastructure over a long period of time, especially services, water, sewer, A building that would have been built for 40 people now has 80 occupants. It puts a strain not only on the building, but services around. And then the other challenge is just social cohesion. So how do we cohere as a community with these ongoing changes? Today, your neighbor is somebody else. How do we build communities? How do we build communities in schools? How do we build communities in churches or places of worship? So that social cohesion, I think, becomes a challenge. It is missing, and it's becoming more and more difficult to build because of our ever-changing landscape. But I think we are up to the task. We try and plan as far as possible. It's not always perfect. And planning is supposed to be a perfect science. But, with immigration, there's a lot of unknowns. We can make assumptions, but you'll only know on the day how many definite new people you have to take into a class, as an example.
Aside from the planning aspect, what else is Gauteng government and economic development in particular doing to try and help with those issues?
So you would see that our premier is on a big sort of drive to make sure that he speaks to his counterparts. Part of our immediate challenges is to make sure that our immediate neighboring provinces work. And if they function well, I don't think people leave home because they really look forward to leaving home. They leave home out of circumstance and always looking for better opportunities. Of course, urbanization will always drive that sort of change, but we do need to create new urban centers outside of Gauteng to be able to diversify choices that people have, choices that people make when moving. So more urban areas, more urbanization does need to take place. What else are we doing to be able to address that is just working together with everybody. So the more we have collaboration, the more we have cooperation, we're able to plan and address those sooner. And I think the big issue for us is just to be able to communicate what our real situation is. What can we do? What can't we do? And of course, human beings, being human beings, will always have huge and high expectations. But as long as you know that while I have an expectation of X, I have been told that my experience will be Y, and you're sort of able to condition yourself to accept that it won't be X, it will be Y.
Okay, so you've mentioned a number of programs and initiatives which the department and province are doing to empower women and youth and I guess just improve the economy as a whole. You've mentioned TIDA. You'll just also outline what it means again. The last mile. What else is there? So our audience.
Okay. Yeah. So TIDA is the Township Economic Development Act. That's a piece of legislation just for the province to be able to address the township economy. So you will not find this legislation in other provinces. We passed it in the legislature last year. The 60 billion commitment of the goods and services budget of provincial government to go to township businesses. Third is our different collaborations. So we've got collaborations with Coca-Cola Bottling Company of South Africa, CCPSA, Last Mile through Uber Eats, through even we're having discussions with other companies in the sector, such as Take a Lot, other companies in the sector, such as, so different ones. We have got township property, the township real estate program, and that's really to upgrade your property in the township, your house. You have got 5 tenants in the back room. We have a fund where you come and apply for it. We upgrade it to make it rentable property. It not only increases the value of your property, but also teaches you the sector of property management and rental management. So that's quite an exciting one. We've got township retail upgrades. So we call it, of course, it is township retail, but it is the spaza shops where we upgrade. We do some work on your shop, whether it's infrastructure, branding, and that sort of thing, stock control. teaching you those. I think for us, importantly, is just to be able to teach people the business of and the business principles that go behind running a business. Some entrepreneurs would have it because they experience it every day, but we also give you the theory, non-financial support, so that you understand, oh, what I've been practicing for 5 years, this is what it is, this is how to improve it and do it better. Other programs, I think they are ongoing. We want to increase our funding for businesses, SMMEs in particular. So we're speaking to different partners to come on board, just to partner with us in match funding. Match funding, if we have 50 million, bring 50 million, so there's a pool of 100. And we're speaking to different, we've announced some, and we'll continue to announce them as they get confirmed.
Look, those are a lot of initiatives, but the ones that we are able to put out are so that you can access them, find out about them, engage. So we've discussed a lot of the policies, the day-to-day, the day-to-day and what is out there. But now, from a personal aspect, I know that even before we were discussing the aspect of being a mother.
Yes.
And how that impacts you being late or, no, she wasn't late for today. Today we started on time. But, just in general meetings, what's life as a woman in politics? A woman that's trying to make it a mother, a sister, and the general... Look, I do obviously have male privileges, so I don't necessarily always understand the day-to-day struggles of a woman. So how'd you go? What are they? How'd you go about them?
So, as a woman, women always have to negotiate their priorities, whereas men don't. And what do I mean by that? So I'm a mother. I have 3 beautiful kids, 2 much older, and then a baby of 12 plus 5 months, so 17 months. For a man the 2 of us, we get invited to an opportunity to meet somebody who could possibly change our lives. And the meeting is in an hour, and we're both at home. You grab your jacket, your car keys, and you leave. Before I can do that, I've got to find somebody to take care of my baby. I've got to make arrangements to get somebody to the house to look after my baby or get my baby elsewhere. Bear in mind, somebody has called both of us and said, can you, can't you? You have nothing that you've got to negotiate. So you've just said yes over the phone. I, on the other hand, have said, I'll come back to you. And now I'm sorting out my whole life. I've got to arrange for the baby. Maybe I was cooking. I've got to either complete cooking, not complete, and think about what people are going to eat in the house. I've got a lot of priorities that I've got to get through. And then I say, when I've done all of that and I come back to the person who has invited me to the opportunity and I say, yes, I can make it, they're going to tell me, oh, Tapelo's already here. And that's what women have to face every single day. So we don't have the luxury of making immediate decisions. We've got the various roles and responsibilities. We've got to navigate through that before we're able to take up an opportunity immediately. So you find, how do women get over that now? They're delaying child rearing. They're delaying entering into relationships and marrying and that sort of thing. So just so that they can get ahead, either in their career, professional lives, and that sort of thing. We have something that you don't have, which is a body clock. You don't have anything that you're chasing. And so we've got to sort of time our lives in a way that men don't. Some of the biggest challenges that women do face is a phenomenon called okay, I'll come back to it. It's just escaped me. But one of the biggest challenges that women face is what are some of the things they have to do to get ahead? And those are very real, whether in the private sector, even in the public or political sector. So you find a lot of women exposed to sexual abuse, jobs for sex has been a phenomenon throughout, but you never hear of a man who had to give it up to get a job. Many women do, either to get a job or to get a promotion. And that diminishes the quality you contribute in that space, even after you have gotten that promotion, you've gotten that job. The other big challenge I think that women, especially African women, South African women, that have to navigate is the fact that we still live in a very patriarchal society. Men just have a particular idea of what women should and shouldn't be, could and couldn't do. I worked when I was at the MEC for the Department of Infrastructure Development. Many of my project managers were female. The younger. The older ones were male. And the phenomenon is that women get up to a particular level or a ceiling in their professional lives, but for them to go over and become managers and HODs, etc., they have to give up a lot. And so many women, when they've got to negotiate that, they say, oh, okay, I'd rather not take the promotion because where I am, I'm fine. But if I were to take the promotion, I've got to give up X, Y, Z, and I'm not in a position to. So you find women that can work 9 to 5 in spaces of 9 to 5. It's a lot of women, professional, qualified. But in spaces that demand you 365 days of the year, 24/7, it's mostly males. Women don't have the luxury of after-hour drinks, where a lot of real decisions are made. So you can work 9 to 5 thinking that you're making real decisions. The reality of life is that the real decisions are made after work drinks, on the golf course, social settings that many women just are unable to. It's unsafe for a woman to be out on, driving around by herself 10 and 11 at night. You're a man. I'm not sure if you're in a relationship or not, but if the lady you're in a relationship with calls you on a Friday and says, oh, hey, I'm coming home late, I'm having drinks, you might say it's fine, but inside is what's going to be not fine. Whereas if I get a call and if I'm told that I'll be home late, I'm lucky. More than likely, he's just going to arrive home after he's done the drinks and whatever anyway. And when he walks in, I say, oh, you're home. Oh, yes, I had. And we've just got to accept that. That's a patriarchal society that women can't get away with doing the things that men can. I don't think women want to be men, but I think women want to have equal opportunities. Women want to have spaces where they demonstrate their capabilities and their talents and their expertise objectively, without being subjected to these stereotypes of, oh, how did she get there? Who did she sleep with? What did she do? And not look at what I bring to the table, but look at how I got to the table.
With that said, I hope that as men, both young and old, we do want to take notes of the privileges that we do have, and one from a passive aspect, but also from an active aspect. So we should also just try where we can to be supportive, accommodative of our partners, sisters, mothers, aunts, cousins, etc. But also from an active aspect in terms of the workplace, let us also, workplace and business, let us be mindful of the challenges. A lot of the things that you said just never crossed my mind. I mean, I don't, like you said, I take a jacket and I go. So, gents, let's be active around that and play the part we can to protect, promote, and love our women. Lastly, with regards to the social aspect, you have been an activist and HIV, you fought towards changing that stigmatization. With regards to depression, you've come out to say, hey, look, you've been depressed, you've fought it out. You've spoke out against abuse. Those social issues, where'd you get the courage? What advice would you give for women that are going through these that don't know how, don't know where, don't know if.
So I don't think I'm any different from many women. So it wasn't a thing of, oh, I am Tasneem Motara and I'm a politician and it's easy for me to speak up, but it's easy for me to leave a relationship that's abusive. It's not. And the reality is that there's so many women in that situation. And I think the biggest, for me, from my own experience, one of the greatest things that can help you is build a support network. Your support structure and your support network doesn't have to be your family. It could be your neighbors, your friends, but build a support network around yourself. Of course, the support network must be able to pick up on things that you can't do, because when you're going through that, there are things that you would love to be able to do, but you just can't. I suffered with depression from high school. Of course, when I was in high school, I didn't recognize it as depression. It's later on in life that I recognized it as depression. I've been hospitalized, I think 3 times now, relapsing and really suffering from mental health challenges and from mental health sickness, illness. I think the way I have really made it and taken the effort of researching for myself, working with doctors and professionals that you're comfortable with. I think that's very important. Sometimes professionals, you have an expectation of what a doctor should treat you like. It doesn't happen. The same with a police station. You go to a police station, many women speak about secondary victimization. You are raped, you go to a police station, you speak about it, they ask you questions as if it's been your fault, that sort of thing. You have a right to change caregivers until you find one, because it's about a relationship, it's about network. It wasn't easy for me to do both. I think as far as my HIV status goes, I was in a relationship with somebody who was HIV positive who never disclosed it. And later on, when I was confirmed HIV positive, I think I made a promise to myself. Any new relationship I would enter into I would disclose it, because, ethically and morally, you shouldn't take away that right to choose from somebody else. And I believe that right to choose was taken away from me. I'm blessed with a supportive family, a supportive husband, a supportive, broad family across. And for me, fortunately, my support structure has been my family. And I know that for a lot of, especially Black South Africans, family is not your immediate support structure. You have blended families, you have, fathers who have not been around, and that sort of phenomenon that we do have. But for me, I think I didn't do it for others to gain strength out of. I did it because I was at that point in my life where I had gained the strength and the confidence to do it. I appreciate, though, the fact that me doing it gave a lot of other women strength and, it gave them strength to say, okay, she did it, I can do it. So I appreciate that of course, because of the position that I hold in society, I've been able to extend that confidence to other women. But it's not easy. Nobody should make you feel that it is easy. Nobody should make you feel, it's easy for somebody on the outside to say, oh, you're unhappy, leave. Trust me, I know. People told me that it's not easy to do. And you've got to dig deep. You have to focus on yourself. You have to deal with a lot of self-criticism as well. What makes you inadequate? Why am I being treated this way? Why am I not good enough? And those sort of things. But I'd also like to say that there is help that's available. I went through dozens of doctors until I found the ones that work for me. And they're part of my support network. If a professional is not meeting your expectation, not helping you, find another one. But get help as much as you can. And when you have this courage, when you have the strength to speak up and leave, it's not going to be easy. It's even going to be more difficult. You're going to have new challenges when that happens. But I think every woman within herself knows the right time to leave, the right time to speak up. Sadly, many women don't get to that point and they end up in body bags. I'm fortunate that I didn't get to that point. But the nature of it is make sure that you do find help, because help is available.
So, in closing, what advice would you give to not only women but youth as to tackle it?
So to youth, I always give advice to youth: put yourself out there. You never know where the opportunity lies. So you could be studying something and you end up doing something completely different to what you've studied. Volunteer as much as you can as a young person. You have an asset that many people older than you don't have, and that is time and a lot of free time. And volunteer as much as you can. In volunteering, you create networks. You also gain valuable experience that you can always put on your CV. Experience doesn't mean experience that you get compensated for or paid for. Any life experience is experience worth counting. Put yourself out there, network as much as you can, speak about yourself, speak about your interests, and in that you'll also learn about your own interests. And like I said, if I volunteered in everything and anything somebody said, do you want to do it? I would say yes, I would. I'd end up doing it and hating it, or end up doing it and really loving it. And that's the only way you'll know whether you like it or you don't like it. And just don't be too hard on yourself. So I think as youth, we all have this, so I've been there, you have an idea that by the time you're 25, you'll be in an office on the top floor with the view and driving a German sedan. No, it's not going to happen unless you're a trust fund kid, and not many of us are trust fund kids. So life is difficult, and don't be too hard on yourself. Go easy on social media. Everything on social media is not reality. So it's entertainment. Take it for what it is. And yeah, just networking is one of the biggest contributors. You never know why or how or in what fashion you might meet somebody 10 years later that you meet today.
Yeah, no. Thank you for taking the time out.
My pleasure,
to support
thanks.
initiative. Guys, thank you for tuning in. I hope that we can take lessons from it, not just the youth, not just men, not just women, elders too. Let's all play our parts in building the society and being the change that we want to be and that we want to see. But before you do that, please subscribe, follow, links to different platforms here. Thank you. See you again. Thank you.
Thanks.